Hi, I'm Rajiv Satyal. I'm a comedian and a host. I am Indian.
And I'm American. So this show will tell the story of Indians in America.
I live right here in Los Angeles, the home of Warner Brothers, Disney, and now Funny Indian Productions. My guest picks a game, and we play it. So enjoy. What do you bring to the table?
Welcome everybody, I'm Rajiv Satyal and welcome to What Do You Bring to the Table? I'm honored to be sitting here with my very famous guest. Does he need an introduction? Dr. Deepak Chopra. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank
And you don't mind being called Deepak?
Call me David, if you will.
This is the third time we're sitting down for an interview. I'm hugely grateful to you, very appreciative. This is super kind of you. In one of the interviews I had asked you once, what are you? Like an author or a speaker, and you had said you don't like to define yourself. Mm-hmm. I'd love for you to elaborate on that. What do you refer to yourself as then?
See, when you're born, you are just pure potential. Mm-hmm. You are infinite possibilities.
Sure.
Then somebody comes along and says, your name is Rajiv Satyal, you're Indian, your father is so-and-so, etc.
Right.
And now suddenly you have a conditioned mind, and in a way you've screwed yourself,
right?
Because you've limited yourself. The moment you define yourself, you limit yourself,
yes.
Because then you're closed to all other possibilities.
Right.
It's you've got to not just get out of that box. You've got to get rid of the box altogether.
So is that biological or is it social?
It's social. It's the hypnosis of social conditioning, and it gets recycled over hundreds of thousands of years. So 99.99999% of the thoughts that a human being has are not their own. They're recycled, conditioned mind, whether it's through religion or nationality or ethnic background, or history, economic conditions, a particular slice in planetary history, but your thoughts don't belong to you. And if you knew that, you wouldn't first of all be tortured by your thoughts. Secondly, you could say, you don't belong to me, next please.
Right.
And then you would open the window to some creativity.
I think that's very liberating though, to think about it that way, because we're always tortured, especially comedians are very neurotic, right? And that usually means that your brain is just going. But it's liberating to think, okay, you know what, these thoughts aren't necessarily my fault.
Yeah.
Right?
Most jokes are also recycled.
Most jokes are also recycled.
They just take a different
they say every joke is misdirection.
context, yeah.
Right, it's a different context, and the way that I explain a joke, it's why I've been booked to speak at various conferences, because I came up with this one thing, right? You come up with one thing. And I said the structure of every joke is 1, 2, 4. That's the structure of every joke, right? Because 1, 2 sets a pattern. And if I were just to say 1, 2, 3, you'd say, yep, so what? Or if I said 1, 2, 7, it would make no sense. But 1, 2, 4, you can go, oh, you weren't counting, you were doubling the numbers. I see what you did there.
It's a discontinuity.
Absolutely. That still makes sense in another context.
In a way, it's a quantum leap of imagination. But what you've done is just change the context.
Absolutely.
The bark of a tree is different than the bark of a dog.
Right. It's still the word bark.
So,
it's just a sound that we've given to it.
And the context.
So I read your book, and it talks about infinite possibilities, and it talks about really that there's no objective reality.
Your true self was never born, and therefore is not subject to death. What dies every now is experience. So the experience that you had when you came here a little while ago, it's dead.
Yeah.
Okay?
Which is good, because it took us a while.
5 minutes ago
You're right.
is dead.
Okay, good.
1 minute ago
That's gone.
is gone. 1 second ago is gone. By the time you get to my end of my sentence, the beginning is gone. By the time it actually gets into your brain, it's gone. So everything you look around is already happened. It's the past. Birth and death of experience, I'm just talking about
Sure.
experience. Birth and death of experience is happening instantly. You can't catch the past, you can't catch the future, and the present is too ephemeral to hold on to it.
Yeah, it's just...
Okay? So you can't hold on to any experience. Now, what people forget, that when they say I, they assume this body-mind, that there's someone inside there.
Right.
Okay, but there's no one there, okay?
Where is it?
Huh?
Is it here? Is it here?
It's not there.
It's not a physical thing.
Yeah, when you say I, which is the subject of experience, the subject of experience cannot be found in the human body mind. All you can find in the human mind are the neurological, biological correlates of experience. So as we are looking at this room now, we are seeing colors and photographs and shapes and sizes and smells. None of that exists in the brain. All there is neurochemistry, okay? Furthermore, that leads to a very fundamental conclusion. I is not the body-mind. I is that in which the experience of the body-mind is also happening. And these sensations and sense perceptions that create my body-mind are arising and subsiding in every now. That's why, this doesn't look the same as it did when it was a baby, or when it was a teenager, or when it was a young adult.
I'm not much bigger than
Okay.
I was, but yes,
But
fair enough.
it's a different...
But we're evolving and we're changing.
Yeah, and what this is, therefore, the body-mind is a verb. It's an activity of sense perceptions in I. The only constant is the I. If I tell you, remember your high school, I remembers, because I is not part of the show. I is watching the show just like you would be watching a movie on a TV screen, or people are watching this.
Sure.
So the I of experience, the subject of experience, is never born, is therefore not subject to death. It's spaceless and therefore timeless.
And attributeless.
Attributeless, it doesn't have a location or a color or a texture or a taste or a smell, but without it there would be no experience of color, taste, smell, or anything that we call reality.
That was a mind-blowing piece of this book, that it took, so much to wrap my mind around, this idea that it is attributeless, that it is spaceless. Yes, please. I don't want to tell you.
See, mine, and
there you
I
go.
go
So,
with the flow.
You know what? Because when you're with Deepak Chopra, maybe this is the game that we're going to play, is we're just going to keep doing this, because I can't focus on two things.
That's
at once.
called, if you do that, you'll stay in flow.
I'll stay in, we're going to keep the flow going. This is
Yeah.
good. So I'll take a piece, you take a piece.
Yeah.
In the book, there's so much there about attributeless, that you're saying that really nothing intrinsically has a taste or a color or a smell until there's a human eye or a human ear to take it in.
But each species creates its own reality out of whatever is attributeless. So the universe you and I experience, so the room you and I experience, is not the same experience to an insect with 100 eyes.
Right.
What does this experience mean to a bat that moves at night through the echo of ultrasound, or a snake that senses infrared, or a chameleon whose eyeballs swivel on two different axes? You can't even remotely imagine what this room would look
Right.
like. So this is a human experience, and the universe that we talk about is a human construct.
Right.
So if I gave this to a baby, or this or anything,
Or your cool glasses.
Oh, my cool glasses. The baby would first of all touch it,
Right.
would be fascinated by the colors, might taste and smell it, and might even try to eat it.
Yeah, probably try to eat
Okay,
it.
and then
Right,
find
right.
if it's pleasant or unpleasant,
Right,
throw it away.
Right.
And at this moment, what that baby is experiencing is raw experience, just raw, no construct.
No, like context even, or
Yeah, but
meaning
no,
behind it.
no meaning behind that
Right.
experience. Then you come along and you said, "Listen, baby, that's a book. This is your hand. That's your body, and that is Deepak's body. Or this is Deepak's body. All this is a learned phenomenon. Even embodiment, the experience of the ownership of your body, is a learned phenomenon, because you don't own your body. 98% of the atoms in your body are recycled once in a year. In fact, if you do a little mathematics, you can prove without a shadow of doubt, based on radioactive isotope studies, that right this moment you have 1 million atoms that were once in the body of Jesus Christ or Moses or Saddam Hussein or even Hitler, right now in your body. In just the last 3 months, a quadrillion atoms have gone through your body that have gone through the body of every other living species on this planet. Furthermore, the atoms, the carbon, the hydrogen, the oxygen, the nitrogen that makes your body, all of it, was manufactured in a burning star. There are now 2.2 trillion galaxies. The carbon in your fingernails, the oxygen going to your brain, could have come from 2 different galaxies or multiple galaxies.
Oh, wow.
So this is the whole universe right here. Okay, and it's furthermore recycling, and it doesn't belong to you. If you hadn't learnt that, or you can decondition yourself from that, you can ask yourself some questions, deep questions. Who am I? And you stick with that, you'll see you're not your name, you're not your racial identity, you're not your gender, your religion or your nationality. You're the consciousness that assumes those identities.
Those identities. Wow. So what do we do with this information?
The Vedanta says there are 5 causes for human suffering. Not knowing your true identity,
Okay.
which was never born and never not subject to death. Grasping and clinging to that we can't hold on to, it's a dream. The fear of impermanence, identifying with the conditioned mind, and the fear of death. These are the 5 causes of human suffering, and they're all contained in one, not knowing your true identity. Once you know your true identity, then you're in flow. And the experience of flow is sensory experience becomes very rich because there's no resistance by the past or the future. So colors are brighter, sounds are more musical, everything is delightful. The universe is a delight of the senses. That's number 1.
Okay.
Number 2, there is no resistance to what is, no regrets, no anticipation, no resistance, just this moment as it is.
You just go through it.
Number 3, your ego is there, but it has shifted into the background. So there's no sense of separation from the universe. Okay. Number 4, there's effortless spontaneity and effortless creativity. Well, I would say that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
Finding out, and there's no fear of death. So.
Is this along the lines of when they say like belief clings and faith lets go?
Very good, very good. Belief is a cover-up for uncertainty.
Sure, and like insecurity.
Yeah, it's a cover-up. I don't ask you, do you believe in electricity? Here we are. This is.
It's going to shine whether I believe in it or not.
So belief is a cover-up for insecurity, but faith comes from the knowledge and experience of the invisible, without which there would be no visible. It's the certainty of the invisible, without which there is no visible. Certainty, because.
And that was the 4th condition you talked about, like the living in the certain mind.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Is there, what you're describing sounds like enlightenment. Is that the kind of the generic word that's been given to this?
Enlightenment, or I like a better word, which is self-realization.
Okay.
It starts with self-awareness, awareness of mind, awareness of mental space, thoughts, emotions, feelings, awareness of the sensations of the body, awareness of perceptual experience, sound, touch, sight, taste, smell, awareness of the web of relationship and connection to the universe, but then awareness of awareness. And that is freedom, because, as Rumi says, why do you stay in prison when the door is wide open? The prison is self-imposed. When I say self-imposed, so society. If you accept the insanity of the world right now,
it's pretty insane.
Yeah, then you're declaring your own insanity.
Right. So okay. So when you say the world is insane, to some extent this is because we live in these 5 constraints of suffering. A lot of people live like that, right? So there's suffering, there's pain and suffering.
And they recycle the whole thing over and over.
It's an insane, we talked about this in our second interview, I think it was, how we live in an insane world.
Yeah.
And you also said...
And it's not normal to accept the psychopathology of the average as normal.
Okay.
Is to declare your own insanity.
So, is it then, are things getting better or worse, or there's always a constant? Is it like, is it Kali Yuga and all those things that they talk about, or what is it?
There is a constant tension between the forces of evolution and the forces of entropy. That's the best word I'll use.
So just randomness.
Randomness, disorder, chaos, destruction. And then there's evolution, which is creativity.
But you take it a step further. Like, you even say that, like, what we consider non-living, right? Because there's dead and there's alive, but then there's non-living. Like, well, why pick up one of those when we got to pick up one of these? That the non-living, now he's going to go for it. Say, now we're rolling. This is flow. This is called flow. And if he drops it, it'll be on the flow. That's a different kind of flow. So we talk about, like, even these blocks may have consciousness.
I did it.
You did it. That's really, really risky. I can't believe you were able to pull that off. That's very nice. Or pull it out, as it were. Impressive.
No, this is not conscious. This is an experience in consciousness.
Okay.
This is a perceptual process in consciousness.
Okay.
As a perceptual process in consciousness, it's known in consciousness, it occurs in consciousness, but here are some very good insights from non-dual teachers. It is made out of consciousness. Why? Because the perceptual experience itself is a modification of consciousness. So if I asked you, would this object right now, instead of calling it an object, if you call it an experience, sound is an experience, okay?
Right.
Shape is an experience, right? Sure. Texture is an experience. Taste and smell is an experience. So instead of saying an object, you say an experience. Then you say, where is that experience happening? Okay? Obviously in awareness or consciousness. So, is it a modified form of consciousness itself? Because could you have a perception without the experience of it? And the answer is no.
No.
So who or what is having that experience that then gives it a label? Okay, this toy or whatever, this rectangular. So yes, it is made out of consciousness, as is this, as is this, as is all this. Okay, that's in Sanskrit there's a phrase, Tattvamasi, I am that, you are that, all this is that, that alone is. And what is that? That is the consciousness in which all is conceived, governed, constructed, and comes into a process that we call experience.
So is that the core argument, if that's the word, with like the Sam Harrises of the world and the what's the other guy, the Dawkins and people? Is it they're locked in sort of
now
a
that
Western...
you brought them up, Sam Harris is a very intelligent guy, very sharp person, understands consciousness, wrote a book called Waking Up. But he's so caught up in his self-importance that he has to do anything, even compromise his own self to win an argument. But he's a smart guy, and for that I respect him. As far as people like Dawkins, etc., they're frozen in an obsolete worldview. They just, Dawkins has a professorship in Oxford and a British accent, and
because he has a British accent. That's true. If you talk in the British accent, anything sounds right.
Anything, especially to Americans.
I
don't know why Americans are intimidated by British accents.
I will tell you that we did a tour throughout India called Make China Or, and my partner in crime, Azhar Usman, he and I needed a late checkout.
I did it again.
I know, you're following, this isn't really looking good. We were in Mumbai, I guess, to keep the peace here, and we needed a late checkout from the hotel. So we called our friend Mo Amer, who was actually just on Stephen Colbert's show, and he does a spot-on British accent.
Yeah.
And so we have him FaceTime in from Cairo to talk to the receptionist on speakerphone, and he used a British accent to ask for a late checkout, and we got it. Because everybody is afraid of and or respects the British. They just will. Like if you just ask in this voice, they'll say no. But if you use a British accent to ask for a late checkout at a hotel, like, oh sure, love, my flight's delayed, through Europe, it would just be a deal, could you just give me like a 4 p.m., ask for something ridiculous. You won't probably get a 4 p.m., but if you ask for a 4 p.m., you'll get like a 2 or a 3. And
I have to tell you a story that, many, many years ago, I was traveling with an Indian Ayurvedic doctor, and he didn't have the usual mannerisms of what we call Western society. He was totally who he was.
Right.
And we had a meeting with the Governor General of an island somewhere in the Caribbean. I won't name the island, but a Britisher, and so we went to see him, and there was in the beginning some small talk. So he said to me, oh, in Ayurveda you use herbs, don't you? I said, yes, we use herbs. He said, yes, those herbs, they must be really good for the crops. I said, which crops?
Right.
He says, oh, just crops. And I realized that even an inane conversation sounded pretty impressive with the British accent. And then my Ayurvedic physician friend went to feel his pulse. He used to make pulse diagnosis. So he felt his pulse, he shook his head, and he said to the Governor General with an Indian accent, this body, no good.
About the British guy.
Yeah.
Right? Like he just didn't have
You should
it.
have seen how crestfallen he
Oh,
was
I bet.
at that, because,
He had been diagnosed, he'd been called on it.
no good.
No good. He needs to take more crops.
And open up his sphincters, as they say.
Yeah, that's right. Well, he was full of something, right?
Yeah.
So it's full, we'll say full of crop, maybe, is what he was. In the world in which we currently are, I mean, I read your Twitter feed and I watch what's going on. I mean, and in one of our interviews you talked about how the human experiment had failed. And
Could be.
Yeah, well, okay, so now you're saying maybe it could be instead of...
Well, there's no certainty to anything, but I think we are definitely at a fork in the road. We have the technology today to heal the planet, to reverse climate change, to do all kinds of things, bring about social, economic justice and repair the ecosystem. Are we choosing that? Are we feeling the compassion and the suffering of our fellow human beings that we want to do something about that?
Right.
And if we had a critical mass of people moving in that direction, everything is reversible. But not many people are interested or aware. I mean, 2 days ago, there was a glacier, which is 1 trillion tons, right?
Antarctica,
as
right.
big as the state of Delaware.
Right.
If sea levels rise right as a consequence of that, there'll be many areas in the world that will be devastated, and you'll have climate refugees and all kinds of diseases. And if it doesn't happen now, it'll happen with the next one.
Right.
So, we're pretty close to extinction in one way, but we still have the intelligence to
do
change
something about it. So, I mean, I guess it's kind of the eternal question. And also, like, I feel like we're always at sort of a crossroads, right? We're
but
always
the
at a
technologies that we have right now, the modern capacities we have now,
the stakes get higher, I guess.
Yeah, with the same Bronze Age mindset.
Have we evolved then? I mean, like, that's the question. Like, are we? We've evolved, and I don't know. Have we?
We have evolved in certain aspects of intelligence. The intellect is very sharp. The human intellect, human imagination, has no boundaries. Okay, and it all, what we imagine, we end up doing.
Right.
We have a rover on Mars, and we're circling other, even entering other galaxies.
Right.
So we have evolved in that sense. Have we evolved in self-awareness, in self-realization, in what I'd say spiritually?
Right.
There have always been a few luminaries. There've been the great Greek philosophers. You have people like that. You have the Greek philosophers, the sages of the Upanishads, some of the prophets of the Old Testament. They've always been those little, we romanticize about them, but by and large, the human species is still stuck in, all our religions are medieval mythologies.
Is anyone better than I know now it's like PC to say they're all the same, but are there ones that are better or more damaging or dangerous or?
Not when it comes to ideology or dogma. I think Hindus can be as violent against other humans, even though they may be vegetarian. It doesn't have to be vegetarian.
Well, if you're killing, yeah. Well, I know, because now people talk about like animals and cage-free, farm-fresh, but they don't seem to care about the iPhones and how they're made.
Yeah.
Like this iPhone was made in a sweatshop by the suffering of humans.
So
they're like, but we'll eat cage-free, farm-fresh eggs. And I'm like, well, that's great for the chickens, but what about, you're protesting on an iPhone. Like, don't you understand the irony in that?
Yeah, so that's where we need our revolution. The essence of the religious experience is just 3 or 4 things. 1, transcendence. 2, the emergence of Platonic values like love, compassion, joy, empathy, peace, equanimity, the search for truth, goodness, beauty, harmony. 3, the loss of the fear of death. That's the experience, because the transcendent is not in time. The I of experience is not in time. That was never born, never dies. That's the essence of every religious experience. But then, try and explain that to somebody, and they say, I don't get it, because they haven't had the experience. So they follow the dogma and the ideology. It's like somebody is pointing to the moon, and instead of looking at the moon, you end up worshipping the finger.
Right.
And that's what happens with all religion. So I think we have to go beyond religion.
Wow, that's interesting.
We have to
They point at the
go
moon and you
beyond.
worship the finger.
We have to go beyond organized religion and their ideologies, because all they're fighting about is their definitions of someone else's experience. So I say religion is following somebody else's experience, spirituality is having the experience for yourself.
They say that to make a change, it takes the square root of the organization, like that number of people. I don't know if that's true, but I've heard that.
There are people who say that. I don't know what the data is.
I don't know what it is, right? But there's something to be said for just getting enough people, like to do
you
it.
reach critical mass through media, through television,
why we're
through
doing
social networks,
Absolutely.
through books, through educational facilities, through movies, through entertainment, through jokes.
You're right.
Maybe then there is hope.
Dr. Chopra, we really want to thank you for your time and it's not your time, right? This is our
But one
time,
thing
right?
about media now and all this stuff, you can have a record of the dream. I'll walk out and you'll walk out and this dream will be over.
That's
but
right.
there'll be a record of it.
There will be a record of it. I know that's what's so amazing about mass media,
Yeah.
and the ability to get your message out there. We watch your Facebook live streams and everything else, and it's just we're such
Thank
huge
you
fan
very
viewers.
much.
So there it is. That's the ending. Perfect. I love
you.
it. That's good. That's a great ending.
Thank you, Raj.
Deepak, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much as always. Truly appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of What Do You Bring to the Table? I'm your host Rajiv, and I still am.
Next week on What Do You Bring to the Table?
It's weird because I always think people who like meditate a lot and stuff and are pretty spiritual, at least in the sense of having alone time with their minds on a regular basis, feel like the most zen. But then I feel like there are a lot of people that I don't think are that evolved that seem to really be into meditation. And I'm like, if they're really into it, I don't know if I...
It's defacing the brand of meditation.
Yeah.
You're like, wait, hang on a second. You
Yeah,
meditate.
it makes me think that there is like a level of spiritual or new ageness where it's just like an excuse to not care about other people's.
Like it's just about being into themselves.
Yeah, but they spin it as being like detached.
Yeah, yeah.
But really,
like
they're
they've,
just like
they've reached a higher plane.
a jerk.
Yeah, you're just kind of a dick, actually.
Yeah.